Hey guys, this is Miss Arlequin, and in today's video we are going to be writing an effective thesis for our essays. Alright, so I would like to just talk very briefly about the structure of an essay. We've kind of talked about this a little bit when we looked at the model essay. We're also going to be talking more about this as we go through each of the parts of our essay. We're going to be starting with the introductory paragraph. So we know that an introductory paragraph should have three main parts to it. It needs to have an engaging lead. That's a sentence or a few sentences that really catches the reader's interest and gets them thinking. It's also referred to by many people as a hook. Even myself, sometimes I call it a lead, sometimes I call it the hook. It's hooking the reader in. After your lead, you have sentences that are supposed to connect your lead to your thesis. This is the part of your essay where you slowly start to get more specific in what the essay is going to be about. This is the part where you might actually start to mention authors or text titles. And then you get to the very last sentence of your intro, your thesis. Your thesis is the point that your essay is going to be making, also referred to by many people as your claim. Now we're going to talk about the other parts of an essay in later lessons. Okay, so this is basically the same thing, the shape of your introduction, starting with your engaging lead, going all the way down into your thesis, the narrowest part of your introduction. All right, so a thesis statement, as we said, is your claim. It is a concise or brief sentence or two that states what the essay is about. It gives your essay direction. It is conventionally or usually placed at the end of the introductory paragraph, and it's basically your roadmap as the writer for what you're going to prove in your body paragraphs. So again, your thesis is your claim, and I'm stating this again because it is so important. Your thesis is what you are going to be working to prove in your body paragraphs. So all text evidence, all explanations, everything you write in your body, its job is to prove that your thesis statement is true. If you add anything to your essay that does not help prove your thesis, it doesn't belong there. Now, a good thesis statement is usually going to be one sentence, although I did mention earlier that it could be as many as two. It really depends on the assignment. Stronger thesis statements are ones that you can put into one brief or concise statement. It should be a statement and not a question. Your readers should be able to tell when they read the thesis what the subject of your paper is. However, it shouldn't just be a sentence that just says the subject. It needs to take a stand. It needs to express an opinion or a claim. If it is just identifying a subject, it's going to be a weak thesis. All right, so again, a strong thesis is one that is going to make a claim. It should not be too broad. So just saying this essay is about winter is a little bit too general or too broad to be an effective thesis. It shouldn't be too narrow, so it shouldn't be like a detail from the story, and it shouldn't be too vague. It really has to be something that reflects what the task is asking of you and something that makes a strong claim. On the screen, you have a sentence frame that for most literary essays, you're going to find effective in helping you kind of construct a thesis. It's always a good idea if you haven't earlier in the paragraph mentioned the text title and even the author to start your thesis with that. So let's say I was writing this essay about the chaser. I would start my thesis by saying the chaser. And then you want to have after the title a strong verb that kind of expresses what the story is doing, what you're claiming the story does. So teaching readers would be a good strong verb for an essay that was asking me to write about the theme of a story. And then you want to be a little bit more specific, so you kind of want to end your thesis with your actual point. So if I'm trying to say that the chaser is teaching readers, well, what does it teach readers? What exactly am I claiming the theme is? That's going to be my thesis statement. Now, teaching readers is only an effective verb if I am writing about a theme. However, that is not the only types of essays we write. So on the screen, you have some examples of other verbs that might be useful when writing a thesis. You really need to choose the type of verb that is going to best fit what the assignment is asking of you. All right, so A strategy I like to use for writing a thesis is to take the essay prompt and to basically rephrase it so that it's my thesis statement. Now, if I get an essay prompt or assignment that's a question, well, then this is really easy. This is the same thing I do every time I write race paragraphs. I take the question and I restate and answer it as my topic sentence when I'm doing a short response. Well, your thesis, in a way, is the topic sentence for your whole essay. So just restate and answer the question, and that's your thesis. So an example would be if I had to write an essay about the chaser. How does John Collier develop the conflict of the chaser? I'm going to restate and answer that question. That's going to be my thesis. In The Chaser, John Collier uses my strong verb, dramatic irony, that's my answer, to develop the conflict. Now, you can also take the essay prompt, even if it's not a question, and use it to write your thesis. Basically, if a prompt is given to you, you can kind of rework it into a question. All right, so let's say I had this task in front of me. Write an essay in which you explain the use of irony in one of the unit texts. Describe the effect the use of irony has on the overall text. So if I wanted to take this prompt, and what is it basically asking of me? It wants me to explain the use of irony. I'm going to turn that into a question. If I'm going to explain an author's use of irony, is it asking me what? Is it asking me where, when? Is it asking me why or how? Well, I really need to say how the author is using irony. And so that's going to become my guiding question. How does the author use irony in the text? And now I can take that question and answer it, restate and answer it as my thesis. In The Chaser, John Collier uses irony to develop the theme that you should be careful what you wish for. All right, so let's look at an example of some poor versus effective thesis statements. John Collier uses irony is not a very strong thesis. It's not specific enough. How does he use irony? If I can add that how, I'm going to have a much more effective thesis, like the one on the right. John Collier uses irony to develop his theme. That's how he uses it. Saying in this essay, no, we never say in this essay. You're stating the obvious. Your readers should know that they are reading an essay. And then I am going to prove. We never want to use first person pronouns in an essay. So in this essay, I'm going to prove that Baum uses descriptive language is a weak thesis. But I can rewrite that using stronger language without calling it an essay directly and without using the pronoun I. In the excerpt from The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, Baum uses descriptive language to develop his perspective of the city. Says the same thing, but in a much stronger way. All right, so just to review, a thesis is not just your topic, it's what you're saying about your topic. You want to make sure that at the end of your draft, you actually go back and re-look at your thesis, see if what you ended up writing about is the same as what you originally stated as your thesis statement. If not, you might need to rewrite body paragraphs, or you might need to redo your thesis to make it an accurate reflection of your body. So keep that in mind as you write. All right, so now we're going to apply what we've learned. Look over the performance-based task and your brainstorming chart from class, and you're going to write a thesis statement on an index card to bring to our next class, which is where we're going to continue with the rest of our introduction. If you need a little help writing your thesis statement, please refer to the sentence frames that are posted on Edmodo.